anything.
Thank you. I've done quite a number of Matrix Reimprinting sessions with you, covering events from pre-birth to probably age 10 or so, if I remember correctly. But I know that in the first such session, I was almost panicked when you were describing what we were about to do, because I had known myself up until that point as being someone who had some degree of difficulty with imagining on demand.
Yes. Yes.
And I don't quite recall right now how we got over that hump, but what I do remember, and this happened a few times with you, is that when I struggled to go back to a point in my early childhood, you actually were able to prompt me and remind me because of your own, I think, innate intuition. And
right. And what is that intuition? Isn't that fascinating? We have three brains, at least. What? There's one here. There's one here. And there's one, there's my tummy. There's one there. We have neural cells, as we know here. What is often commonly not known is that the cardiac muscle, the heart, has an enormous number of neural cells, like brain cells. And the gut, the intestines, have as many neural, or we could even akin to brain cells as a kitty cat, as a cat. And I don't know about you, but I've known some pretty clever cats. And the Heart Math Institute, those are some people who have done some fascinating research, have discovered that with experiments that the heart mind will sense what's happening in a way that looks like precognition to this brain. It looks like precognition. And this mind will pick up what's going on, kind of like the guy that claps a beat after the beat. And if you think about it, if this mind is for reflection and analysis, well, of course it's going to be after the event. You have to let the event happen. The heart picks things up as they're coming in. Like events the heart is on the event horizon before the brain is. Well, what about the gut? I haven't seen, maybe someone can tell me about this, as much research on that, but my sense of it is the gut is strictly in the here and now, like an animal. It's the animal mind. We say, I have a gut sense. There's a wonderful book called The Gift of Fear, in which the author, Gavin De Becker, speaks about having interviewed thousands of people who were attacked and said, I didn't see it coming, but without exception, as he interviewed the individuals, they would say, well, come to think of it, I did have a sense, but I didn't want to be impolite or whatever it was. But that was their gut minds going, whoa, this ain't right. Get out of here. So we have this wonderful system, but in order to be social and to be polite and to get along and so forth, we have been encouraged to suppress our inner guidance system because someone else told us you shouldn't be that way. Nice ladies don't do that. When I was a young woman, I had a man try to steal my wallet out of my back pocket in a store one time. He tried twice. It took me the second time to get over that nice lady thing, that some strange man should not touch my butt. Polite ladies are nice. Well, bullshit. Ladies who survive take care of themselves. Okay. But all that training. So we need to unlearn as much as we've learned. Now, what about imagining? I know how I helped you get back into your memory where you would have sworn to me. You would have sworn an affidavit that you had no memory of it. I said, Sharon,
Mhm.
ask your body. He's like, I don't know how to ask my body. I said, well, watch what happens, observe what happens when you think about this. Whatever the issue was, does your hand move? Do you have a feeling? Where do you have a physical sensation or an urge for movement in your
Mhm.
body?
Mhm.
And as we followed those cues from your body, you were able to recover the memory, which your body never lost, but your conscious mind said, we will put that away till later. It's too hot to handle right now.
I've already forgotten
That's
about
how
that,
we've
Beth.
done it. So people who say that they have no memory of an earlier age, that's not a problem. We follow the body clues.
Okay.
It really works.
Yeah. Um, so I just wanted to talk a little bit about one of the less emotionally charged for me episodes that we went back to, you and I, with the
Yes.
Matrix Reimprinting. Um, you took me back to I was probably somewhere between 5 and 6 years old,
Mhm.
and I went out with mom and dad on what was one of the very many business lunches. Uh,
Right. I remember.
yeah, because dad was a VP of international sales for a company in New York City. And he was always hosting people from overseas, clients and prospective clients. And, you know, being a little bit of a workaholic, this would carry over into his weekends. And so I would be tagged along, and so would my mom, to, you know, sometimes more formal and sometimes more casual business lunches. And this particular one was at a restaurant in um, a department store, which is long ago defunct, but all New Yorkers of a certain age will remember Alexander's on
Huh.
Queens Boulevard. And we were in their restaurant in the basement. And I, being a young child, wanted to get away after sitting there and finishing my food.
Sure.
I really
Sure.
had, you know, I was over it. And so what you and I went back to was the part of the lunch where I stood up on the leatherette booth seat.
Mhm.
And my father, who was always a lovely man, but a little bit stern, you know, told me to sit down,
Mhm.
that you don't step on the leather with your shoes, and you have
Yeah.
to wait and be quiet, or something to that effect. And I stood up again shortly thereafter, and um, it sort of ended with, you know, me being banished and my mother being instructed to, you know, whisk me away. Um,
Yes. Yes.
and apparently, you know, that and similar experiences had a suppressive effect on me as an
Sure.
adult.
Sure. Hmm.
Um, but the part of it that I really enjoyed was the part where I asked my young self how I would like this experience to end.
Yes.
If
How
it
would
could,
you have had it if you were in charge?
to tell me, Beth, because I know you have a terrific memory, and despite the fact that you have multiple clients, I think you might remember the way I chose to reimagine that childhood scene.
Yes, and it was glorious. But since it's your story, I think you should tell it, and I'll just egg you on.
Oh my. Okay. All right, if I must. Um, so I, as a little girl, changed the track of that lunch meeting, and what I imagined doing was yelling to all the adults, "That's enough!" And I took all of them by the hands,
Wow.
led them back to the entrance to the restaurant, past the frozen yogurt bar, which was a very fragrant area, but we'll get back to that later. March there.
This is vivid for you.
Yes.
Look how vivid this is for you. This is wonderful.
Yeah, I marched them all to the elevator, pushed the button, we got in. I chose a random floor of Alexander's where there were many, many clothing racks.
Aha.
I told all of them, follow me, and proceeded.
You were in charge.
Yes.
You were in charge.
Yes. And proceeded to run as fast as I could, as far as my little legs would take me. And I ran all along the square that the pathway between clothing racks made. And then I darted in between clothing racks, sort of as in, hiding, catch me if you can type of game. And all the adults were very enthusiastically following me.
Yes. Yes.
Playfully.
Yes. Yes.
And then I imagined a ball, and I threw
Yes, I remember the ball. I remember
Yes.
the ball.
Yes, and I threw it at my mom, and I threw it at my dad, and I threw it at the business client, and we were all just tossing it back and forth and laughing, and it was wonderful. So, I
Yes.
took a moment
Yes.
of suppression and I turned it into a big game
Right.
that a 5 or
Right.
6-year-old would enjoy. And
Yes.
got the adults to participate. And as a final touch, I remember I asked them if we could have frozen yogurt, and they were all
There's the frozen yogurt. I knew it was going to come
yes,
back.
yes. So back in the elevator, down to the basement, out into the restaurant, and it was frozen yogurt for all of us. After which we left, there was no more business talk and no more boring or stultifying.
Wow.
Yeah.
Hallelujah. And how literally much better it would have been, not just for you, but for the adults, if rather than the relentless drive to do business alone, like tunnel vision, if play had been brought into, think about it, play brought into the deliberations of the adults as well. But that's their choice, whether they would do that or not. But it's your choice to say yes to your own valid impulse to have play rather than just sitting there like you're in a straitjacket.
Yeah.
Play is the gold standard of all goodness.
Oh, there's that phrase. I had a feeling we were going to hear that today.
That's my professional byline. And I don't mean heedless play that would run roughshod over anyone. I mean that we aren't designed to be in boxes. We're creatures that discover life and thrive and are healthy and joyous and successful when we have play infusing our lives. And as a child, you knew that was true. And if we look at your active imagination of going to where the clothing was, let's get a little symbolic here. People wear clothing to take on roles and to change roles. We didn't do this before. This is right now. And you started with encompassing the whole perimeter of the matter. And in this, I see your incredible intelligence. I know you well enough. You have a mind that literally encompasses the whole big picture. And then once you've done that, you systematically go into the details, and the ball is the perfect symbol of where attention is going.
Mm.
And you draw other people in with you into the appropriate and effective function of focus. And I know we were just talking about this earlier, how you do this in your work, that you work in a capacity where people will wander, shall we say, and how very good you are at bringing people back to the focus that they really need while keeping in mind the big picture as well as the details. And look at this. This is right there in your childhood innate wisdom. And the adults are like, oh, you sit down and behave yourself. And you're like, no, we got to do life. And it works. It works. It's not just some messy little kid making mischief. It works. And then, well, of course, if you've achieved something, you need a sensual reward. Yogurt, frozen yogurt.
Sure.
Aha. My mind is telling me while we're doing this, well, there better be a reward after this, meaning, like as if I were a dog getting doggy treats. And I will reward myself.
Mhm. Yeah.
I'll make sure I have something that I really enjoy, and I'm going to let myself enjoy it.
Yeah.
Rather than being a pseudo adult, there's real adult. We could talk about that sometime. Real adult is not opposed to play at all. Real adults really play. And I don't just mean rich people who have the leisure to do it. I mean, all of us have a requirement to play, even in the midst of trouble, maybe even especially in the midst of trouble. We need the light moments as well.
Oh, I'd have to agree. Yeah.
Because, just to be real blunt about it, life is temporary. We all leave it anyways, and if we aren't living while we're alive, when do we think we're going to do it?
You make a good point, Beth.
Well, I can be pissy about this too. Someone will say to me, well, Beth, you need to lighten up. And then that's when they're going to, if I'm not feeling like I'm ready for that, they're going to see my Godzilla side, But that's also valuable. If you have a good friend, someone who can embrace you, again, there it is. I like you just the way you are. If you are upset and not having it, then your friend waits you out till you come back to your ability to breathe in the joy of life again.
How true.
Yeah. But for you to put your foot down as a little girl and be heard by your adult self and to express, and you as the adult who has been knocking away at the hardships of life for decades and decades, socking it out every bloomin' day, getting things done, getting the work done, bringing in the income, to stop and take a little time and a lot of attention to say, I have a me inside of me that knows you got to take it lightly, even while it's serious. And it doesn't mean you don't care. Actually, au contraire, it means you do care. But look what you did. It's perfect. It's perfect. It isn't just good, it's perfect. Because it's yours.
And I don't think I'll ever forget that particular session. And there are a number of others that I think will be inscribed in my memory for a very, very long time, if not forever. But you know, that's what working with you has been.
Thank you. I love it. I
Every
love it.
session an adventure in and of itself, really. And
Now,
full of surprises.
I want to say something. You have a lot of what we might call congeniality about you. Not every client does. Some individuals are at a point in their process, like the infamous movie where the guy says, I've had it and I'm not taking it anymore, and he just goes postal.
Mm.
Very famous movie. I've had it. I've had it. And some of my clients need to rage. And it's a well-known phenomenon in counseling that the individual engaged in the process will at times project upon the therapist or the counselor. You know, in other words, you're the asshole.
Mhm.
And I'm going to quote one of my dance therapy teachers, a woman named Valentine. Isn't that a great name to have if
Sure.
working with people? I could just see her. She's a little woman. She's very lithe, you know, a dancer. I could see her leaning on her elbow on the dance floor, and she says, you know, I don't mind being the surrogate asshole, but you got to ask me first.
Mm.